We're on? I'd like to call to order the rock and roll music is soon to follow. I'd like to call to order the Avalon City Council meeting of Tuesday, July 16th, which will also include a meeting of the City Council acting as the Avalon Housing Authority. And if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sheriff Villanueva, are you here?
He was.
He's busy working. Okay, well, who's the second in charge of the Sheriff's Department? I would like them to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. There you go, Michael. Sorry, take the mic.
If you'd all please join me, place your right hand over your hearts and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. If you please be seated. We'll just go straight to the roll call, please, Abby.
Councilmember Haves.
Here.
Councilmember Olson.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Cassidy. Here. Mayor Marshall.
Here.
Mayor Marshall, I would like to make an announcement. Councilmember Hernandez tendered his resignation to me this afternoon in my office, and that is effective immediately. In the near future, we will have an agendized item to discuss our next steps.
Okay. Well, I know we're all kind of a little bit of shock here, so you'll have to excuse us. Anyway, let's go ahead. I don't know what to say, so I'm speechless at this point. So,
Is that final? Can we ask for maybe a 30-day or something?
It is final. I did ask Councilmember Hernandez if I could just retain the letter for a few meetings to give him time, and he says he wanted me to proceed forward, and he knew I would be announcing it this evening.
Yeah, and once it's received and it's in writing, it is final.
Is there a reason?
He did not give one in his letter to me, no.
okay. All right. Didn't City Manager, would you like to make the introductions?
Where's John? Come on, John. Come forward, John.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Captain John Hawking, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Tonight, I would like to introduce the Sheriff of Los Angeles County, Alex Villanueva. And before he speaks, he would like to show a short 3-minute video.
Great.
Cool. And if you saw on that video, there is a deputy holding a baby next to a riverbed. That's our own Avalon deputy, Adam Collette, when he was training in the city of Compton and subsequently transferred to Avalon. That is him.
Oh, wow.
So thank you, Sheriff.
It's famous.
Wow, that's a history of the department in about 2.5 minutes from start to the present day. And they're exciting times. This is our 15th town hall, town city visit throughout the county. And we have a lot of good things happening right now. Our recruitment issue, which was a big problem when I was campaigning for the office, somehow it got resolved on November 6th, because now we literally have people lining up around the block, around the door, trying to apply for the department.
Great.
We're averaging now 65 to 69 applications a day.
Wow.
In one day, we hired 26 people a couple of weeks ago. So our vacancies are dropping. We inherited an enormous vacancy. It was 958 where it peaked at. Now we're about to get under 900 into the 800s. So the Board of Supervisors in the previous administration thought it would take to the year 2033 to resolve it. Our current pace is going to have us getting to 0 vacancies by December of next year. So that's a massive turnaround that people are excited coming to work. And of that, a lot of good things fall from that, because you have a high morale, you have low absenteeism, workers' comp costs start dropping, and the fatigue factor is dropping as well, because now, in fact, up in the high desert in Palmdale, Lancaster, one of those had 39 vacancies. Now they're down to 7. And that tells you how much that impacts that one operation, that one station. And that's being witnessed all throughout the county. Every class now, we've added 4 more classes. Now we have 12 classes in each year, calendar year. And instead of running 60 students a class, now we're full of 90 recruits in each class. And so that's what's allowing us to keep this pace. And we have an ample supply of people wanting to come on board now to join the Sheriff's Department. And part of the way we were able to do that is, one is being perceived as a fair employer. You have to be a stable employer. You have to value what each and every member of the organization does. And when you do that, people are going to feel valued, and they're going to dedicate their career, their professional choices to your organization. And that was something that was missing for the last 4 or 5 years totally. And now I think we got that back. And the people in Tan and Green back there, I think they're like what's happening, and we're going to keep moving forward, because now we're making changes large scale that impacts each and every station that we have, including here on the island. Is that your first assignment in patrol has to be 4 years in one place. You can't hopscotch around, because institutional knowledge, community knowledge is the strength of being a good peace officer. And building those strong relationships with the community allows us de-escalate conflicts, understand things, understand who the people are that have autism, different mental disorders, and the ones that are special needs, the ones that are dependent adults and their caregivers. So when we have conflicts or issues that someone ends up calling us to resolve something, we're not walking in blindly to these situations. We know who's who in the zoo, and what the behaviors are, what the concerns are, the gamut of issues that they may be facing, and that really gives the deputies a fighting chance to actually come up with the best solution that is safe for everybody. So we're doing that countywide, and when we get to the full staffing model, we'll have our community policing program implemented countywide. And that 4 years also segues into when you become a new sergeant. You have to go to patrol. You got to do 2 years on the line, in uniform, in a radio car, not on a desk, some cushy admin job, none of that. It's got to be a hard time on the line. And same thing when you become a lieutenant. You got to give me 2 years on the line. And at the rank of sergeant or lieutenant, you got to give me 2 years in custody. Because what I want is, when I have my unit commanders, I want them to be well-rounded, experienced. I want them to be credible leaders in law enforcement. And we can't do that if you're a glorified desk jockey your entire career. And you only relied on political patronage to get you from rank to rank. All that's been thrown out the window. Now, to become a station captain, a unit commander, you have to compete for it with all the other lieutenants and captains out of the department. So we've done, Eli, 11 so far, right? We've completed 11. We got 2 more to go, Compton and Lost Hills. And the 11 that we've selected, I didn't pick them. In the past, it was real easy because it was based on cronyism. So the favorite son or daughter that was going to be groomed to be the heir to the station was pretty much marshaled there, typically as your ops lieutenant. And then when the time came to select this person, they put 2 ugly people next to the pretty one, and you thought you had a choice, and you picked the pretty one. The whole thing was orchestrated from the very beginning. You never had a choice. Now it's actually, we're putting the onus on the local community to make that choice. So each community that serves, that the station serves, they have to provide us a 5-member panel, interview panel. And it's usually been a mixture of community leaders, civic leaders, business leaders, city managers, elected people. Everyone has been slightly different because they all have a different formula. Some are all unincorporated communities, some are all one city, for example, contract city. Some are a mixture of the two. And but the result of that now is that the community actually picks the person. We identify the finalists, typically 10. Everyone submits their application. I'm interested in being, for example, the captain of East LA. So I get a bunch of applications, and then we reduce it to the 10 finalists, and they have to meet all the marks of the ones I just described at the rank of deputy sergeant lieutenant. They have to have the education. We're looking at a minimum of a bachelor's degree, master's preferred. These are the standards for chiefs of police according to the International Association of Chiefs of Police. When you apply to be a chief of police, this is standard. Something we didn't do forever, we are doing it now. We're trying to uphold standards. And the good thing is the one who wins made it through a very competitive process and convinced the community through the interview that they were the one for the job. But the ones who didn't make it, they walked away with something very important. They saw how the person was successful and what they needed to do to be that next person. So now we have people that spend a lot of time of their careers, riding the desk, those desk jockeys. Now they're actually trying to get back out there and patrol. And the ones in patrol are the ones with a big smile on their face because they're where they're supposed to be all along. So we have to value community service. Leader of the department in the years past told me that I needed to get out of patrol as soon as I could when I was a young sergeant in patrol. And I thought, that's going to be the dumbest advice ever. But the person had a lot of stars on their collar. But that was the attitude, that somehow patrol is a waste of time. Custody is a waste of time in your career. No, it's the most important things we can do is serving the community. So we're all oriented towards serving the community, everything we're doing. Deputies, that's their sole focus, building relationships and how can we make our community safer. Doesn't mean we're arresting our way out of every situation. We're just trying to figure out what's the best decision, and are there alternatives in incarceration? We're dealing with problematic individuals. They're in every community. How can we do that? And how can we expand these alternatives in incarceration? And every community is slightly different equation, and so we adopt it to each individual community. So we have 23 patrol stations, and that's not counting here, right? So we'll say 23 plus 1. You guys are the plus 1. Oh, wait, but we also have, well, no, it's West Hollywood Universal Studios is part of West Hollywood, right? Yeah. But you folks are the special ones.
We think so.
But it's been a fun 7 months so far. We've got a lot of work to do, but the piece that we put into place, the big moves, they're starting to bear fruit now. And the feedback we're getting from other communities is they really like that they actually got to choose who their station commander was. That's very empowering, and it's part of the model of community policing, the philosophy, good governance. I mean, we're all working together. So us, the Sheriff's Department is a part of the community, every community, including here in Avalon, in the whole island. So we flew here to 2 harbors first, took a tour of the harbor and talked to the deputies, and we made some history today. Turns out I think I'm the first sheriff to ever visit 2 harbors.
That's great. Thank you.
And then I understand Sheriff Baca was here for a Star Diver event some 15 plus years ago. And prior to that, Pitches was here in 1964. I think he landed on the shores like Douglas MacArthur and planted a flag or something. I don't know what it was, but we want to be a good partners in your tall order to serve the community here on the island. So anything we can do to make your job easier, we want to get more resources, particularly on the far side of the island. On this side of the island, there's some things that we need to do, and out of sight, out of mind is a real easy thing when you guys are so far away. So when I first took office, Dan Bettner and Natalie Garcia, they're the ones that have been putting the town halls together, said, you have to do one in Catalina. And so here we are. So I don't do scripted things. I just talk off, the top of my head. So same thing with questions either. I know if the audience has questions or you folks have any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
In terms of a career, so if a young person was in high school and thinking they wanted to be a member of the Sheriff's Department, what are the minimum qualifications to get them in the door?
To get them in the door right now, they need to have a high school degree. They have to be a good credit history. They have to have good employment history. They have to be 20 and a half, I believe, at the time of hiring. So you can apply when you hit 20. It used to take 13 months, the whole process. We were losing good quality candidates. Now we've shrunk it down to 6 months. Our goal is to get it down to 90 days. So we really went through the entire hiring process, see where we were losing good candidates and what was a holdup. Mm-hmm. So we've ironed out all these little kinks in the system. So now it's a lot quicker. And so the candidate right now is a high school, but by the end of next year, it's going up to a 2-year degree, associate's degree, because we're raising our standards. And but 18, you can't apply anyway. So I encourage them to get their butts in school, stay in school, and get some good grades, because the future in law enforcement is going to be education. Mm-hmm. And it's just gets more complicated.
And if there's a young person that maybe made some bad decisions in their past, but seem to be doing okay now,
As long as they're not convicted felons, we'll look at it case by case. And one thing that we were losing some good candidates in the past was especially the polygraph. They take the polygraph and they wire you up and they see where you register on a question, and they come across, for example, a domestic violence or some type of abuse, and the needles will register, and right away they disqualify the person for being giving answers that weren't truthful. But if they grew up in a household of domestic violence and they saw it, they're going to have very strong emotions that will register. So we weren't looking at the whole picture. And we have some recruits that come from some very tough backgrounds, gone through adversity, gone through hell and back. And I'd say, God bless them. They made it in one piece and they met the qualifications. I want to hire them. So now we're looking at the whole picture.
Wonderful.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Anybody else has questions, or the community have any questions?
We don't bite. We were tested for rabies.
Obviously, I don't have a question, but since no one else was coming up, I would just like to make sure I point out to the sheriff what our working relationship is with the deputies over here, with the fire department, with Harbor Patrol. I can't tell you, I've been on the sheriff's department for over 30 years, and I've worked a variety of stations, and working, Sheriff, with this fire department, Mike Krug and JJ and Gary Black for LA County Fire Department, our relationship, as you saw today, we don't have a lot of people over here, a lot of personnel, and when we need backup, there's nobody else for us except for these people, this fire department that comes and helps us. And I couldn't just stand in the back of the room and not point that out with the boss, the sheriff, being here. I want him to know that. So,
that's something that actually brings something to mind. Our department as a whole, we're the least staffed agency in the entire nation. The average per capita across the entire nation is 2.5 cops per 1,000 residents. That's the average across the whole nation. New York, NYPD, they can go high, they're as high as 3.8. LAPD is 2.2. We're at 0.9. And we police an area that's, our population that we're responsible for providing those law enforcement services is greater than the population of the city of Chicago. They do it with 12,500 sworn. Our deputies dedicated patrol is only 3,500. So you do the math there, we're always in the hole in terms of staffing. So we've always done more with less throughout our careers. No matter what the challenge is, we figure out a way to do it. Sometimes it's to our disadvantage because then the higher-ups think, all right, you got away with that, well, here, try it this way. Even less. So we'll make it work, but we're always going to obviously pushing for the resource we need to get the job done, and which is to serve you.
Fantastic. Well, if no further questions, do you want to make a
I just wanted to say thank you very much for everybody taking the time to come over and visit Avalon. I would like to encourage you the next time you do a video, though, could you put Avalon on the map? Because that will help you remember us.
We were on the map, we were covered over.
We were covered over with the
Well, the map
legend,
was kind of
but,
old, I think.
Yeah, no, it's good. But thank you again for taking the time to come and visit.
Yes.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks, sir.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All
much,
right.
and thank the rest, all of you for coming. And those of you that are not. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we will go to.
Moving on to our kind of out of business, this is a general business item. We have Jeff Klein, he's the Civic Engagement Manager for the Los Angeles County Register Recorder's County Clerk. He's going to do a presentation on the Voting Solutions for All People initiative and the changes for the voting experience in March 2020. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. All right, thank you for having me here today. It's always nice to get out to Catalina, so there's worse places I could think of to work, so appreciate you having me. There's a lot of changes coming in 2020, so I'll just jump right into a number of the changes, and let's see here. Okay, so we have our new initiative we call Voting Solutions for All People. That's the sort of a broad name. There's a lot of different components to this initiative, and I'll break down those components shortly. Our main objective and the reason why I'm here today is we're trying to get out to all parts of the county and inform everyone about the changes coming to the March 3rd election. As you know, the county is very large. There's over 5 million voters in LA County, so it's very challenging for us to reach all voters with the new information, so we're really depending on these partnerships. If you know anyone else who would benefit from this information, we ask that you either share that information, and we are working with your city clerk to constantly update and inform and provide messaging and so forth for the VSAP initiative. But also, if you know anyone who would like a presentation or would like the information and you want to connect them with us, we're happy to work with anybody and everyone interested in that. So the new VSAP initiative is really a number of different components. So I'll quickly run through these and then I'll break them down in a little more detail in the presentation. But for those who vote at a polling place, and even if you vote by mail, you're probably still familiar with this process. You go in, you give your name and your address, and someone looks you up in a paper roster. Well, we now will replace that paper roster with an electronic poll book. It looks very similar to an iPad. And we need that electronic poll book for a number of reasons, which I'll explain a little bit later in this slide because it'll make more sense. But some of the advantages we have with an electronic poll book over paper is we are able to do conditional voter registration. That is something that is allowed by law now. And conditional voter registration allows any voter who missed the voter registration deadline the ability to register to vote conditionally up to and on election day. That conditional registration still has to be validated and verified before we can count the individual's ballot. Oops, I lost one of my screens. But it allows us to provide conditional voter registration. We can also take care of name corrections. Or if someone is a vote-by-mail voter, we can go ahead and cancel their vote-by-mail ballot and issue them a regular ballot, and that prevents things like avoids provisional voting for that individual. Moving on, we have a new modern tally system. Because we have a new ballot, we need a new system where we can efficiently tally the election. It's extremely modern, it's very efficient, and it allows us to do a lot of things on the back end, but in terms of how that impacts the public, it allows us to hopefully get the results in quicker. We know people are waiting up till 3, 4 in the morning in a big election because it just takes us a while to tally the votes initially on election night. The tally system allows us to do a number of things ahead of election day, and therefore hopefully that will lead to results coming in earlier. We have something called an interactive sample ballot. This is an optional item. Right now, I think everyone is familiar. You get a little booklet in the mail and it lets you know who you're eligible to vote for. Interactive sample ballot, so you'll still get that booklet, but the interactive sample ballot will also allow you to make your selections ahead of time, either on your mobile device or your computer, generate a QR code, then walk into a vote center, transfer your results from your interactive sample ballot to the ballot marking device, and it pre-populates your ballot. It's not your vote. You still have to verify it. You still have to cast your ballot. If you lose your interactive sample ballot, the QR code that generates, no one can take your vote. It's just an electronic version of the booklet. Another big change is our new ballot marking device. There's a picture of it from the top down. I have a little animated video later in the presentation that shows how it works in more detail. But the ballot marking device is owned by LA County. It's the first voting system developed by a voting jurisdiction and owned 100% by that jurisdiction. So it is something that LA County developed, created, and we own it. We have full control over modifications, upgrades, security patches, and so forth. So we're really excited about that. It does a few other things for voters with disabilities who might need to attach an accessibility device. That will be allowed. I lost my screen. There it is. And also it'll allow serving voters in multiple languages. So we provide materials in 12 languages plus English. All those languages will be loaded on the ballot marking device, so a voter voting in any vote center will be able to get the language of their choice if that's what they wish to do. The voting period and the vote centers are probably the two most significant changes. So you'll be able to start voting 10 days prior to election day. And so instead of voting on just one day, you'll have a period of voting. So it'll be a total of 11 days where you'll be able to do in-person voting. You'll vote at a vote center, and voters will be able to go to any vote center in LA County. So let's say you live in Avalon, but you're visiting relatives out in Pomona, and you decide to vote before coming back to Avalon. You can go ahead and vote your ballot over in Pomona. Or let's say someone's visiting here for the day. I live by Dodger Stadium. If I was over here for the day walking around and I found the vote center here, I could vote my ballot here as well. And that would be during that 11-day period. So we will have 250 vote centers starting 10 days before the election day, and that number will increase to 1,000 vote centers 3 days before election day. So those last 4 days, the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and election day. And the last change, which actually already took place, is our new vote by mail ballot. And if you're a vote by mail voter, you would have noticed the change. I don't know if anyone noticed that or if you're a vote by mail voter, but now you just mark directly onto the ballot itself rather than having the Scantron and you have to find the number for the person you want to vote for and then match it up to the number on the Scantron. Now you just mark directly onto the ballot itself. One of the big changes about the new vote by mail ballot is that there's no more postage stamp required. It's postage paid. Also, under our new voting experience, our new model, we'll have 250 ballot Dropbox, VBM drop boxes, so anyone can drop their ballot off. I think we had a drop box here previously, and that program will continue, but we'll have 250 of those around LA County. So voters will have an option to return by mail, drop it at a Dropbox, or return it to a vote center. Okay, I have a video that kind of summarizes everything that I discussed. I think it plays.
The election is just around the corner, and Los Angeles County has a new way for voters to make their voices heard. New Los Angeles County vote centers are located throughout the county. Cast your ballot near your home, work, or favorite park. Voters can go anywhere. To find a vote center that's convenient, visit lavote.net and find one that works best for you. Instead of waiting for one day to vote, you are now able to vote across 11 days. Once you've arrived, a vote center assistant will greet you and check you in before taking you to the ballot marking device. Did you know that there is a new interactive sample ballot that lets you pre-mark your selections online and generate a poll pass? A unique QR code that will let you quickly transfer, review, and cast your selections on a paper ballot at the county vote center. The new ballot marking device includes an audio ballot, a touch screen, and a tactile keypad to make voting faster and more accessible. You can also select your language, change the font size, and adjust the contrast for easy viewing. Then, after you make your selections or scan your poll pass, you can review your ballot to verify your choices and cast your ballot by feeding the paper ballot back into the ballot marking device. There's no need to give your ballot to a vote center assistant. You cast it on the same device. Welcome to the future of voting in Los Angeles County. Fast, convenient, and easy. Go to vsap.lavote.net to exercise your right to vote and let your voice be heard.
All right. So as you can see, the video shows I wasn't making any of that up. All of those changes are really coming. So it's a lot of changes, and that's essentially why we're getting out to all parts of the county. So just to break down the information in a little more detail, so the vote by mail ballot, again, there's a picture of it. You mark directly on the ballot, so anyone who is a vote by mail voter, you should look for this new style of ballot. And no postage required, and then you have the VBM drop boxes available. The one big change that's really exciting about the new model is a lot of times voters lose their vote by mail ballot, or they didn't realize they had requested one. That happens all the time, and then they show up to vote in person, and they're required to vote provisionally. So now we can cancel their vote by mail ballot through the electronic poll book and just issue that voter a regular ballot. So it eliminates the majority of our provisional ballots, because the two main reasons people vote provisionally are: one, you're a vote by mail voter but you don't have your vote by mail ballot, and two, you're at the wrong polling place. But now there'll be no more wrong polling place because you can vote at any vote center in LA County. So the provisional process will still exist because you have to have it for specific reasons, and you always need to have that safeguard for voters. But in this case, we're excited because it's not a great experience for voters. We understand that, and we're able to really eliminate most of those reasons. Okay, a little more about vote centers. On the left there, you see a kind of a sample diagram of our what a sample vote center would look like. So we're going to have three sizes of vote centers. We're going to have a large vote center, we'll have a medium, and a small. The large will have about 50 ballot marking devices, the medium will have about 25 to 30, and the small will have 10 to 15. So we can also place those strategically around the county depending on where we think people will be voting, and population centers and so forth. Every city has at least one vote center, and then some areas will have more. So in terms of Catalina and Avalon, probably one vote center. There's a lot of flexibility with this system as well. So we're really not bound by any specific guidelines except the minimum number of vote centers we have to have, which we're actually going above and beyond to make sure we have as many vote centers as possible for voters of LA County. But we can also do things like have two in downtown LA, because previously, under the polling place model, you can only have one polling place per precinct. Well, we can put, if it makes sense to put one at one end of downtown LA and one at the other end of downtown LA, that might make sense for us. We can also have 24-hour vote centers. We've been talking about playing around with that. Maybe a few areas, having them open till very late at night, just for voters who find that more convenient. So we've used a lot of data to figure out what would be the most convenient method for voters, and we're really experimenting with that. In the middle are some main points that I mentioned earlier, worth repeating. You'll be able to vote at any vote center in LA County. There's 250 starting 10 days before the election, and then 1,000 for the last 4 days of the election. And now you can understand why we need to have that electronic poll book. If you're voting at any vote center in LA County, we need to be able to look you up no matter where you are, so paper no longer really works. The great thing about the electronic poll book, it also maintains the integrity of the election, because we'll mark you as voted real time, so you can't drive down the road 30 minutes later and try to, or take the boat across, right, and try to vote again, right? You'll be marked as voted real time. They're fully accessible. Accessibility is a big component, and the name Voting Solutions for All People it really is, that's where it comes from, because if the person with who needs the highest level of assistance can use it, that means all of us can use it. One of the really great stories I always like to share about this is we focus tested this device with over 5,000 voters. And there was a lot of different iterations of this device, and the one we have now is the one they settled on. But they used language accessibility groups, senior groups, voters with disabilities groups, and there was a gentleman who was confined to a wheelchair, and he had this accessibility device that he used with his foot. He couldn't move any part of his body except his foot, and he could talk. So he was able to plug in the accessibility device, vote his entire ballot with his foot, print it, and cast it, and no one had to help him. So it was a pretty amazing experience, and that's something that person was never able to do. Something as valuable as voting was never able to do independently, a true private vote. So it really emphasized what this project is really about. Okay, and on the right there is the poll pad. That's the electronic poll book. As you can see, it looks very similar to an iPad. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's a lot of data that went into this project. On the left are the reasons people have said that they didn't vote. So a lot of them are, too busy was the number one. The election was not that important. They forgot about it, unable to get off work, and so on. Most of the reasons people state go away under our new voting model, because if you now have 11 days to vote, if you don't have time to get off work one day, you can always go and vote the next day. Or if you're visiting relatives, you're going to be out of town on election day, you can just vote at a vote center near your house or near friends or whatever, wherever it's convenient for you. You can't really make someone care about the election. That's really up to the voter, but all the other reasons will really go away. So we feel that this would lead to higher turnout, which is something we're very interested in. And then on the right are the locations voters have said that they're interested in having a vote center at. So some of it, obviously we're bound by the buildings available to us in communities, but it just shows the typical areas, a library, a school, community center, and so forth. So we're working with communities to find the best locations for those vote centers. Okay, the interactive sample ballot, I mentioned it earlier. Again, it's an optional item. So you can still get your paper booklet and you could walk in and make all your selections by hand, no problem. Or you can use our new interactive sample ballot. You get your electronic sample ballot emailed to you, make all your selections, and it generates a QR code, which we call a poll pass. Very similar to an airline boarding pass. You keep it on your phone or you print it out and you walk in and you scan it and it pre-populates your ballot. The ballot starting in 2020 will be very long because, as we all know, everything is consolidating. So you add in all the local contests with the presidential or with the governor's ballot, and it makes for a very long ballot. Some people may just want to take care of their selections ahead of time, go in, vote in 5 or 6 minutes, and then leave. You still have to get your ballot, you have to check in and all of that, but this is a convenience measure. So pretty easy, but again, we like to stress that even if you lost that poll pass, no one can steal your vote. If you're, flies out the window or you leave it somewhere, it's just an electronic version of that booklet. Okay, the ballot marking device. As you can see the picture on the left, there's a ballot box attached to the back of it. So when someone votes and the ballot goes back into the machine, that's where it will go, a secure ballot box. Those come back to our office every night. We're not going to be leaving ballots overnight. Obviously here, that's going to be a little more challenging, so we'll work with the city clerk's office to figure out a way to secure those ballots and make sure that we have that, a process in place. Also, as you can see, the legs are wider, and someone with a wheelchair, for example, can get up closer to the device. Everything tilts, and on the right there, you can see the paper sticking out of it. So we always like to emphasize this is not electronic voting. This is still a paper ballot. There's no internet connection. There's no wireless. It just has a power cord. So it's still a paper ballot. Everything is tallied off the paper. Okay, here's a quick animation of how it'll work. And this doesn't have any sound, so I'm going to narrate it. Okay, so you touch to start. After you get your ballot, you're going to choose your language. Then you're going to insert the ballot that you were issued when you checked in. So the great thing about this new ballot marking device is, one, it prevents overvoting. Overvoting is voting for more than you're allowed to for a contest. So you get one vote for a contest, you accidentally vote for two. This prevents that from happening. If you overvote it, your vote for that contest is negated. 10% of ballots in LA County have overvotes on them. So it's not common, but it's not uncommon, and this will protect voters. It'll let you know if you missed a contest. Also, it allows you to make changes on a ballot where you mark with a pen and paper. If you make a mistake, you have to go back, turn it in, go back, remark it. Now you can make all your changes before you actually print your ballot. So you have a review screen. If you like it, it prints. You can read the printed ballot before you finally cast. If you realize you made a mistake at that point, you could walk it over and get a new ballot. But if you're good with it, you hit cast and it goes back into the device and then it's done. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You can see the headset and keypad there for people who would like to use the audio ballot. Okay, this is probably my favorite slide of this entire presentation because one of the big comments I always hear is, wow, you're changing so much, how am I going to really know what to do? But really nothing is changing about the process. It's the equipment that we interact with the process that's changing. So the first step is you arrive at a vote center. Right now you have to arrive at a polling place, same thing. You get checked in. Right now it's a paper roster. In this case, you would check in on an electronic roster. Well, a staff member will be there to check you in. You'll receive your ballot. It's a paper ballot, just like right now. You go over to the ballot marking device, just like right now. It's just a different type of device. And then you'll make your selections with your hand or scanning your poll pass. You're going to double check to make sure everything's correct. You can make changes. And then you're going to print and you're going to cast your ballot. And then you get your I voted sticker, which is probably why everyone shows up, right? Everyone wants the sticker. All right. Okay, before I move on to some of the different activities we're doing and ways we can partner additionally, any questions about the equipment or the process?
I have one question.
Sure.
Because even though the polling devices are just electricity or whatever, those poll books, that's like internet or something.
Correct.
Okay, and we typically have a problem. It seems like when the DMV comes twice a year, there's always the first day that there's a glitch for some reason. And I guess if you're going to be here 11 days, it really doesn't matter if there's a glitch, because you will be here for 11 days.
Yeah, so in terms of connection, we have our own wireless connection that we can use if there's not an adequate connection through the facility or you don't feel it's so the thing about the connection I always try to emphasize is, let's say we're at a library, for example. We just need the technical capability that a connection exists so that we can run our own connection.
Okay.
We're not going to be connecting our equipment to the library's Wi-Fi and getting their password and just logging in. That's not a secure way to run an election. So it will be the LA County Registrar's connection, and it'll have several layers of security. So we just need that technological infrastructure that exists in the facility, and then we have either we'll do a hardwire or we have a Wi-Fi connection. Where
because one of the problems with the DMV is the whole state of California was down, and so anyway.
It's a big focus of our process, and when you need 1,000 facilities, you have to have a lot of different means for having that secured connection. So there's a variety of different ways. I'm not an IT person, so I can't get into the details too much, but I think we'll be set. Yes.
And you will be here for 11 days.
I don't want to commit to that. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to promise anything. Have you heard? No. Okay, I'll go back and find out actually, and we'll
But go ahead, Audra. Do you want to come up to the mic? You probably should, because this is good information.
I can repeat your question. Okay, sure. This is great. Actually, most of the councils, they don't let the public participate.
Well, I'm a staff member.
Oh, okay.
We would have still let her.
No, this is great though. That was great. It's fantastic.
My concern is that you see all this, on the news that, elections are being hacked. So are we protected?
Yes. So
we don't want to be hacked.
No, and we don't want you to be hacked. Security is one of our top concerns. So just a little background information on what we're doing at the registrar. So in order to implement this project, it touches on every part of what we do. We've had the same voting system for 50 years, so everything we do is changing. And we've established what we call work streams. So the work stream I oversee is our community relations work stream. And we have 2 work streams that deal actually with security, so people just dedicated to that only. The number one thing to know is there's no internet connection, so there's literally no way to hack the machines. It's just a power cord. The machine also doesn't store any information. Everything's a paper ballot. So once you vote, it's paper. We're not downloading anything from the devices or anything like that. It doesn't even know who you are. It just brings up your ballot. And all of those, and the election is tabulated directly off the paper. So The one thing that obviously is a concern, and while it's not the election votes, it's the e-poll book, right? So it taps into our voter database. We want to protect that information because that's people's private information and personal information. And if you saw the news a few months ago about Florida, how they said 2 counties in Florida had their voter databases, someone attempted to get into those. So that's always an ongoing struggle for us. People are always trying to get into our voter database. That is security that we're always dealing with. But in terms of this initiative, we're going to have several layers of security, and we'll be contracting with an outside cybersecurity firm to do 24-hour surveillance of our voter database. So there's a lot of different measures and security that go on. So hopefully that makes you feel a little better.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes. Great. Good question.
I have another one.
Okay.
Probably not related too much, but
Sure.
And those of us who run for office, we know, and you want to send something out to people, and you look down there and you go, man, a lot of these people are deceased.
Yeah.
Blah blah. And is there a way to ever get those updated, or people don't vote after 30
Right.
years? You take them off. I mean, how does that work?
Yeah. So if you don't do any activity with our office, you get turned into inactive. And an inactive voter, if you don't vote in 4 major elections, or we send you some mail and it gets returned as undeliverable, you become inactive. Inactive voters never get anything from us, but they stay on the roster. So the reason we don't send anything to inactive voters is because they most likely moved away or maybe passed away. And so we don't send them a vote by mail ballot because we don't want to just have ballots floating around where people probably moved away. We don't send them any information because it's a cost issue, right? We don't want to print material that's not going to be used. If we don't get any information that someone is deceased, official information, they will just remain as inactive. If we get official information like health records, which we get from the state, and a few other reasons, if we get that information, then we will cancel that voter. But a lot of people will say, well, I already told you guys that this person passed away, but we need a little more than just a neighbor saying, oh, this person's passed away, because you can't really rely on that. Someone could just say that I passed away if they wanted to do something. So anyway, it's a little more complicated than just that. But really, if someone has that information, they want to let us know if they're a family member or they have that information, they should contact our office and we can work with them.
So when you say 4 major elections, that could be like 8 years?
It's 2 years. I think it's the primary and the general in 2 cycles.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and then if once someone does some interaction with our office, because people sometimes don't want to vote for years, and then they find someone they really like and they show up, that's why we leave them on the roster, and then we'll reactivate them once they do that. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Good question.
Anybody have questions? Because we're
All right.
not going to see them now until March 2020, right?
So I'm going to talk about some other ways we can partner and really help get the word out. So we are trying to really leverage every resource and every individual, mobilize as many people as we can to get the word out. Okay, so we had something called the VCPP that stood for Vote Center Placement Project. And we use this to really get suggestions for vote centers all over LA County. And obviously things are always a little bit different when it comes to Catalina, so this is just giving you a picture of sort of our big picture approach. And this was a way to really assemble the community and get a lot of suggestions on where vote centers are going to be placed. So that's something that we really engaged in for the county as a whole. I think for Catalina, everyone knows what are the facilities that are probably available, because probably not too many options. The courthouse, I think, is probably the best available option, from what I remember. I haven't been out here for a little while, so. Or maybe City Hall, but so it really just kind of depends on the space available and so forth. We have something called an Adopt a Vote Center initiative, and this is a way where people can help us out if they know additional locations they want us to look into anywhere in LA County, or if you have staff that want to work. Or you could do both, offer space and staff. We want to work with anyone who has that information available, because that may come in handy down the road. So we're working on this Adopt a Vote Center initiative as a way to increase the locations that we have and the staff available. On September 28th and 29th, we're going to have a mock election, and we'll have 50 sites around LA County. And we want to make sure we get a lot of people coming out, 100,000 voters countywide. We would love to have a lot more locations, but 50 locations is kind of, we have to balance it between reasonable expectations. So if, you know, helping spread the word is always good. And if you're interested, or you know an organization that wants to partner with us, or anyone here in the community, they want to help get the word out, please let us know. We're happy to work with you on that. So more information to come about that. We're still finalizing the 50 locations, but we should expect that by the end of the month. All right. Okay, after the locations, we're going to have demo centers available, and we'll have 10 demo centers around LA County. We're still working on the locations for those, but that'll really start up in October, and those will be opportunities for people to come and try out the equipment and do a simulation. And so a lot of these things I realize that is challenging for Catalina because of the, you know, it's not a huge population, but we don't want you guys to feel left out. So I think we could work out a way where maybe we could come back later in the year and bring one of our ballot marking devices if possible, and see if we can kind of have a day where people can come and try it out. That might be something to work on. So I understand that might be challenging for people here to get out to the mock election or get out to the demo center. So maybe we can work on something separate if there's like maybe a big event or a big day going on that attracts a lot of people. So we'll be in communication with that about that. All right. And then in January, on January 2nd, we consider this full implementation. A lot of people, the average voter, isn't really thinking about elections until after the holidays. So we'll really hit the ground running, even though we're doing a lot of work and a lot of activities. Leading up to that, this will be really our full blitz to get out. And if you think about it, we actually don't have a lot of time, because if you're voting 10 days before Election Day, really you're going to start voting on February 22nd. So, you know, we want to really make sure we get the word out as quickly as possible and promote it. And I think, let's see. So just a couple other things about LA County. We have over 5 million voters, as I mentioned earlier. We actually have more voters in LA County than 44 states have statewide. So it's a big challenge for us to do anything countywide and reach all the voters that we need to reach. So that's, again, emphasizes the need for these kinds of partnerships and sharing this information. We also do events, outreach. So if you have any events coming up and you want materials for that, obviously it's a little hard for us to get staff to come out here, but we're happy to send you materials. And if you want, we even have a presentation. This presentation you can use, or we can send you just some easy one-pagers if that's something that you want, if you need that information. And then we're also on all of the digital outreach, social media, websites. We have a bunch of information. Anything we make, we want the public to share. So, okay. So any other final questions?
I have a question, Jeff.
Yes.
So if I were in Long Beach and I couldn't get back to the island to vote, so I wouldn't know my voter number, but I give them a name, and
Yes.
all the local candidates would show up on my ballot?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we would just look you up in the database and it would know what your ballot is. We're really excited about it. We've been getting a lot of national attention. In fact, Dean Logan, our registrar, he was actually in the Maldives, actually at an international conference on elections, because not just nationally, people are looking, this is international attention. So we're really proud of it, and we're excited about all the changes. So.
Any questions, council, community?
Sounds cool.
As you can tell, this is big changes, and Jeff would not go away. We had to have him here.
Yeah, I used to come out to do the training for poll workers, and then
Yes.
Matt started coming out. So it's
Well,
good
thank
to
you.
get
It is
back
very
out.
exciting.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll stick
you.
around for a little bit if people
Sure.
have additional questions. If anyone wants to come up and ask questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, city manager, any announcements or other written communication?
I have I would like to introduce our new code enforcement officer, Efrain Moreno. If he could please come forward, we'd like to welcome him. He has been on the job for, I think, since July 1st or 2nd. He really jumped in with both feet right before 4th of July. So, We've extended hours also for code enforcement, so he goes till 7 or 8 each night, and that's also to have more presence on Front Street to assist the sheriffs. So he's been tracking down dogs and bicycles and smoking, and he's making all kinds of friends out there. And he will be going to his training in a month. So we welcome Ephraim.
Yes, we do.
He's a great addition.
What's that?
He's a great addition.
Yes, I'm happy. Okay. And department head reports. Who would like to start?
Good evening. Bob Greenlaw, Director of Public Works. Got about 5 items for you. Mole Phase 1, the contractor is currently processing the contract and fulfilling the necessary federal requirements. A notice to proceed is expected to be issued before the end of the month, and while we're accomplishing those tasks, we set up a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, and they'll be on the island the 25th. So things are moving forward with that. Sumner Avenue and Beaker intersection, you see the crosswalks in, you see the start of the median. Tomorrow morning we'll actually put in the speed bumps that go in the middle of the yellow lines and the reflectors that go inside the lines, so that it's both, we remove the cones, and that it's also retro-reflective with your headlights when you approach it at night, because that's a concern that you can see it at night. And I was out there last night when it was dark, and it seemed like at least you could see the cone. So realize that it's going to be only 3 inches high when we get done with the next temporary aspect of it, and then we'll let that be in till the end of the visitor season, and then we'll be asking for comments from the public at the time when we're asking comments for the parking, so that we can see if we want to finalize that and what will be the final implementation of that median. Let's see, we have pothole patching. So within the next few weeks, you've noticed, like on Pebbley Beach Road, we've marked out some potholes, and throughout the community will be a pothole patching on our roadways with the cold mix. And then as far as hot mix project, anticipating doing a hot mix project in October once the visitors leave, and that will focus around Vaughn's, making all the patching there, hot mix, the trailhead building, and then all the utility repairs around there. So I see about 3 or 4 days effort on the city side. I know that the island company has said that they want to team up at least with the same contractor, even though ours is a public bid. They usually do that. Usually All American Asphalt is the one that's the bidder that comes to the island. And then we're also ramping up to complete the debris removal and fence panel replacement on Pebbley Beach Road. We said that we were able to accomplish that when the visitors were here, because we'll do it under traffic control. So you'll see maybe a slight delay with some of the traffic, but what you'll see is that we'll be kind of scooched into next to the K-rail, and we'll have a 1 lane of traffic control, so that we'll stop you maybe for 1 minute at the most and let that traffic pass. So that way we can get the fence panels replaced and get some of the debris that's kind of pooching out of the top of the K-rail done, and safety that up for the rest of the season. Realize I also said before that we're going to do Casino Way and also Pebbley Beach Road with a larger cleanup, but that's after the visitors are gone, and so that we're able to pull those K-rails out and get a lot of dump trucks and loaders in, and so we'll be occupying a bigger space. So that's more in the fall. Okay, any questions?
Do you have more items, or should I just say
That's
one?
it.
Oh, I wanted to give your team kudos, because there is already a massive difference at Beacon and Sumner. Traffic already flows a lot smoother through there, and it's so far it's been really nice, even though it's not finished yet.
It definitely has a traffic calming effect. You have to work at driving that. Yes.
And then, do you know the roadway that goes to the 800 block of Crescent up near the Trailhead project, from all the construction and the little waterway that's put in from the Trailhead property to the city street?
Yes.
There's quite a few levels of uneven road.
So that's a hot mix paving project that we would do.
Okay.
And so, there has to be regrading of that whole piece of roadway. done. So that's when we'll tear into that. And so you'll see brand new hot mix in that whole stretch up there.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And it needed it before the trailhead went in, but the trailhead, with all the grades that they had to make all the drainage work and all the ADA accessibility, it's time that we redo that roadway.
And then can you just reiterate, I know that you said it at the last meeting, and I'm sorry I didn't get my notes in quick enough, but the railing that's going to be where in the new slope on the sidewalks for the ADA accessibility, did you also say that that was going to happen on
We're anticipating
Beacon
within
and Catalina as well?
So there'll be 3 locations on Sumner. So at each one at Sumner and Beacon, and then at that furthest one to the west, I guess it is, where it's kind of that mid-block. It seems like a mid-block on that one side. So anywhere there's a vertical difference there with a curb, we're going to put a decorative railing there to block it so people can't just walk off.
Right, so my question is...
And then the one in Catalina
Okay.
is the 4th one.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I was following along with you, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I just wanted, because I hadn't really, somebody mentioned it at the last meeting, but then I really took a look at it and had a community member mention that we've had some falls there. So I thought you told me that, but I wanted to just clarify.
Yeah, so I'm anticipating coming with a PowerPoint within the next couple meetings here and show how we designed, the layout of those ramps, because I had a few questions on those. And then, hopefully by then we'll have the rails installed. Okay?
Great,
Thanks.
thank you.
Oh, I know. Bob, really quick, I noticed that there's a really gnarly dip on Lower Terrace Road. It is awful. So I don't know if you would go over and check it out, but it's pretty radical. I know you live there, and
I know I've been fighting this one for 5 years now.
I've been driving there and back and forth, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta avoid that dip. So just wanted to add that. That's not really what I'm here to report out. So. In June, we approved the taxi voucher contract for another year, and one of the takeaways from that was that you asked myself and city staff to do a more robust campaign to promote use of the dial ride. So I'd like to share some statistics of that first campaign and what we have coming forward. On June 10th, we did a dial-a-ride sign-up on Front Street. Thank you to Recreation for putting up the tent and everything. We had 2 new applicants. We will be holding another DAR sign-up on Wednesday, August 14th from 10 to 1. And I have some statistics for you. Last June, this June, half of so far in July and last July. So in June of 2018, our dial-a-ride ridership was 280 people. In this June, 2019, 589. That's almost a 50% increase. In June of 28, oh, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. July of 2018, it was 322. Sorry, I'm confused. June of 2019, 589. June of 2018, 280. July of 2019, we're only halfway through the month. We've had 257 riders. And for the whole month of June in 2018, we had 322. So it's working. Also, I want to remind everyone that the dial-a-ride hours have been extended to 7:30 p.m. daily to accommodate riders that are on the 545 boat. And according to George, a lot of people are taking advantage of that. So we're making some progress, and after the August 14th meeting, I'll probably come back in September and give you some new statistics. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Good to see you. The Harbor Report. 4th of July weekend was not weekend, but it went into the weekend. It was pretty good. Our boat count was up last year. 2018, we had 220 boats that moored on 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And this year we had 279 boats. So 59 more boats came in this year. Could be attributed to a lot of things, but maybe the weather might have been a little bit better, although after it got really cloudy really quick. The fireworks show went off with a hitch. I'm sure Chief Krug will talk on that. And there was great cooperation between our department and the fire department, transporting them out and having a plan in case something happened. Also, we had on the 4th, we had the music at the casino. I went out in a boat, drove around, and a lot of people really enjoyed that. They really did. So I didn't get any complaints at all. And so that's something maybe we can try to do a little bit more in the summertime. The dinghy parade went well, as long as they stayed away from the kill zone with all the water balloons and everything else. So in July we had 1 discharge site. In June we had 2. So it's summertime and people are starting to come back into it. So over the 4th holiday and the weekend, we had a lot of calls of service, boats having trouble tying up to moorings. And a few people at night fell in the water. Sure, there's some alcohol involved in those. Some minor medical calls, but other than that, things went really well for us. A lot of people came in, had a lot of boats on anchor, so things went well. Any questions?
Good. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. Just very quickly, as Harbor Master Poindexter said, we made it through the 4th of July with a pretty normal amount of calls for service, nothing significant. There were no significant issues as far as safety went with the fireworks. That all went off without a hitch. And I would just like to remind people with the most recent earthquake that was in Ridgecrest, just remind people again, they should be prepared to be on their own with food and water for 3 days at minimum. And also remind people they can go to the City of Avalon website and sign up for the Code Red emergency notification system that's free of charge. Unless you have any questions for me, that's all I have.
Council?
Thank you.
David, thank you very much.
Matt Baker, Finance Director. I just wanted to provide just a quick summary of the email I sent on Friday summarizing the tourism-driven reports. If I could summarize it, I'd do it this way, is revenues as a whole are relatively flat compared this year to last year. The TOT numbers in April were in line with what the TOT numbers were in April of last year. The May numbers I haven't published yet, but May is actually slightly up in May 2019 compared to May 2018. On the flip side, the other major revenue would be our wharfage, our cross-channel. And while the revenues were up, that's really attributed to the increase in the wharfage. If you were to try to standardize those numbers, the number of passengers, or at least pulling that out from the numbers, would be down 4 or 5%. So for the year as a whole, revenues are relatively flat and kind of, it's a good month, I guess you could say, in TOT, but the wharfage was slightly down. So that's how I'd summarize that email. The only other thing I have is Davis Farr will be presenting our 18 financials at the next council meeting. And Jonathan, who was here back in January, will be out to answer any questions as well. Unless there are any other questions for me, that's all I have.
I think we're good. And we'll be seeing you on Thursday.
Yes, we will be. That's actually a good reminder, just so the public knows. We will be having a town hall discussion, I don't know what the right term is, to discuss revenue generating ideas for the city Thursday the 18th from 10 a.m. to noon. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Amanda Cook, Planning Department. Just a couple of quick updates. Zangray is looking at a Labor Day grand opening, so they've got all their interior finishes done and all of their infrastructures done. They've almost completed all of their street repairs that they needed to do. The last thing they're trying to finish is they're running the new electrical down to the Chimes Tower. It's coming from the Zangray, so they've got to get that across the street. Atwater, as you can see, is changing every time you look at it, and they are looking at a 23rd grand opening ribbon cutting. So that's 1 week from today. They're hoping to be ready to open their doors. I wanted to let you know that the Pebbly Beach Laundry is almost done with its renovation. They are looking for their final connections for the gas, water, and electric, and they did put in a new state-of-the-art water reclamation system. So we're really excited about that. And the last thing I wanted to announce is that John Gilbert will be coming on board with us full-time. We'll be sharing him with the Public Works Department, so you should see him here full-time within the next week or so. And that's all I have, unless you have...
Congratulations.
We're really excited. If you have any questions for me.
Council?
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Amanda.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. July 4th, first want to thank you all for your participation in the day's events. I thought we had a great full day of activities, something we can continue to build on. Was really pleased with the music, was really pleased with the parade. I think we've got a little bit of work to do still on the fireworks show, and we'll continue to work in that effort. A couple other thank yous. Our Grand Marshals, Blaney and Allison, for their participation, and Jeff behind the scenes, Rusak behind the scenes on what he did and his team to put together getting the horses over and the carriage over, making that a kind of a special part of the program. And then lastly, our sponsors and donors. I won't list them all, but I think we're in upwards to $26,000 with potentially some more money kind of trickling in. So it goes a long ways with the expenses for the day's events. And then lastly, for me, Tuesday last week we hosted the lottery drawing for the sidewalk vending. We had 13 sidewalk vendor permit holders, permit applications qualify for it. 8 of those being low income, 5 of those non-low income. We've got 3 that we selected for food. We've got 3 that we selected for merchandise. We'll be hosting a meeting Thursday at 4 o'clock, just to kind of go over the specifics, taking in the necessary information so we can get these folks out on the streets. And that's it, unless you've got anything for me. Thank you.
I think we're good. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Mike Palmer, Assistant City Manager. I just had a couple quick updates. I wanted to let council know that earlier this week, yesterday, we received a comment letter from the Catalina Island Company and with some questions in regards to the development impact fees and capacity charges study. Staff's currently working to answer those, and we're working with legal counsel to make sure that gets addressed. There is a public hearing scheduled for the development impact fees and capacity charges. It's going to be held on August 20th, and it will include the resolutions, the ordinances, and the code sections for the first reading immediately following the public hearing, and then we'll come back on September 3rd at the City Council meeting for a second reading on that. And then also I wanted to let council know that a couple weeks ago, there was a request for staff to look into what we can do regarding the AT&T outages. Staff's been working with legal counsel to explore options, and what we've done is we have developed a letter. We're going to be submitting it to the California Public Utilities Commission, filing an informal complaint, not a formal complaint. There are some nuanced differences. We drafted up a memo to council this afternoon, and that'll be going out tomorrow to council, kind of detailing out what is contained in that letter along with a copy of that letter, and then we'll be mailing that out tomorrow. So we'll hopefully start to see some sort of resolve. Essentially what will happen is through that informal complaint, the California Public Utilities Commission will assign a case number and then contact AT&T, and then we'll work to try and see if we can come to some sort of resolve. And so we've put in some requests in there for that. So any questions?
No, thank you, but that's nice to hear. So there's some action we can take. We don't have to just sit here. So, thank you.
Mayor, on a side note, just that when Michael sent the letter off to BB&K for them to review, Scott sent it to his expert in that field, and that person sent back to Michael, who wrote this letter for you? Like in their firm? Because it was so well written.
No comment, right?
I'm trying.
So is the point of contact for the city is the assistant city manager on AT&T?
He has done it.
Okay. So, oral communications. This is an opportunity for people in the community to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You will be limited to 3 minutes. What did I do? I forgot the thing.
You forget us and yourself.
Oh, we sure did. Well, let's back up.
Quick.
I had nothing to report. No, okay, I'm sorry.
No, my comments were already said by staff, so.
I have one, actually. I went to a conference this weekend, and one of the things they really emphasized with the census is tomorrow, and that it's really important for the city to make certain that you have a local task force. And I know you've talked about this, to make certain that everyone's counted, your funding and your and so much is dependent upon making certain that you have an accurate count. And so the head of the Southern California Census was at this conference and urging every city to make certain that you have local people working with your local census to make certain that they understand the nuances of the city, so you can get as many people counted, because all your funding flows from that number of people that you have.
Well, and did it finally get resolved that citizenship question
It is not on the short form. It has always been on the long form.
Oh.
So long form goes out to 1 million people, but the short form will not have it.
Okay. And Amanda, because either you or Audra both were working with the census people, wasn't there a comment made a while back that they weren't going to hire local census takers? Yes. And what you're saying is they're telling you to have local census people.
They're telling us to make certain that you have some kind of immediate communication now with the census, to make certain that census people are prepared when they come out and work with the city.
But you don't think there's a way we can insist that we use local folk?
They were encouraging that, at least.
They were encouraging that?
This person on Saturday was. So I will send them the materials that I got to the city manager and Amanda and Audra.
Okay. Yes, because I think that's really important here.
Yep.
Okay. Council member report.
I'll go, mine are quick. Thank you to city staff, all city staff, each for their efforts in a successful, fun, and undersaturated 4th of July celebration. The weekend was fun. I felt like everybody enjoyed the parade, could see the parade. People weren't falling all over each other. And wanted to thank everybody for their efforts, as well as the Sheriff's Department for the extra efforts and visibility throughout the weekend, and also at the mole, which helped to alleviate additional issues out there over the holiday weekend. My second item is I had wanted the city to take a very strong role in working towards fixing the cell phone situation. So I think Assistant City Manager just reported out that we will be. And that's all I have.
Great.
I don't have anything tonight.
I have two very important things. One is I will concur with Cindy and all the staff of 4th of July. It was really a great event. Everybody had a lot of good time. Actually, 3. Also, for Bob, I've heard from 5 or 6 people that the Sumner Beacon intersection works. And it's slowing people down, and it's not cutting people off. And it's a good way to do it. And probably the most important thing is today's my wife Kate's birthday.
Happy birthday, Kate.
That's it.
Where'd you get it?
I got her a fast photo scanner so she can scan all the photos, like 14 photo albums.
Oh my God. Oh,
That's what she wanted.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm not going to report anything. Ditto to what everybody says about AT&T and the parade and Public Works, so we're going to move on to oral communications, which I don't know if I have to repeat it again, but speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes and no action will be taken. I do want to say before we get started, I'm making an oral communication Paul from the library will not be here this evening, and he's very sad, but he is watching us. Okay. Anybody else? Jim? Oh, no? No? Okay. All right. Can't you make something up? Okay. Consent calendar.
We have 6 items this evening on the consent calendar. The first one is minutes from the July 2nd, 2019 regular meeting. 2 is warrants for a total disbursement of $2,604,329.90, and that's for disbursements of June 22nd through July 5th of 2019. Number 3 is to adopt a resolution authorizing submittal of a grant application to the State of California for the City of Avalon Recreation Complex and identify the city manager as the delegated authority. Number 4 is to adopt a resolution accepting the grant funds and authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute the contract with Caltrans to receive grant funds. 5 is to authorize city staff to contract with Davis Farr for professional services to audit fiscal year 2019, including the preparation of single audit report, the NTD report, and the state controller's report at a not to exceed amount of $54,200, and to authorize city staff to solicit a request for proposals for a firm to provide audit services for 3 fiscal years of 2020, 2021, and 2022. Number 6 is to adopt resolutions adopting the memorandums of understanding between the City of Avalon and its 5 labor associations, which is the Avalon Harbor Employee Association, Avalon Municipal Employee Association, the Management, Confidential Employees, and the International Association of Firefighters, Local 2295, for the contract period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th of 2021. And I needed it noted that on the harbor associations, on page 20 of their of the MOU, there is a slight revision to the beginning sentence which states, during the term of this MOU, the 2 parties will continue to meet, confer, and make steps towards the viability and impact of the following. Everything else is the same in that article. The harbor representatives did send me an email today, and they agreed to it. And I just want to take this time to thank all the associations and their representatives for all their tireless hours that we met and conferred. Sometimes we got a little heated, other times we didn't, but we always left on good terms. And we met on a regular basis for quite some time, and then we kind of came to a standstill. So we're very happy to bring those MOUs forward this evening.
Council, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to pull item number 3, and if there's no others, then I would make a motion to approve 1, 2, 4, 5, 6.
Second.
Moved in second. Comments? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Olson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All ayes.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay,
No, don't say sorry.
I am always in favor of going after other money besides our local money. But I guess my first question was, what is the City of Avalon Recreation Complex? Because it's the first time I've heard of that.
It's a very generic term for a number of reasons. But we envision there being a community center, accessories, perhaps a swimming pool, but I don't want to put that out there as this is what's going to happen. There is no land tenure at this point. We do not think that we will be successful in this round, to be quite honest with you, and that's why I kind of stated in the staff report how much money was asked for in the last round, how much was actually awarded, and the amounts for this one. The reason I think that it's a valuable tool is because then we get feedback. And when we get feedback, that helps us beef up our application for the next round of funding. So I think it's a lot of work, but it's a worthwhile endeavor.
So this isn't a type of funding that you have to actually have a plan. It's sort of a
well, they
pie
want
in the sky. We'd like
they
this.
want you to have a plan, and we have a kind of plan. I believe there is some money in the budget this year to start developing that plan so that we are more aligned when the next round of funding occurs. So, yes. And then there's also other state monies that will be flowing down to the city that aren't competitive.
Okay.
And so I'll be reporting on those at a later date.
So it's kind of, this isn't, I guess really where I'm going is that I guess I see that staff is so, we have a lot to do and we have very limited bandwidth to do it. So I guess my thought was to say if we don't have a plan and we don't have, we don't really have a clear picture of what we're doing, why are we spending staff resources?
We have a kind of clear plan, and we also are working with Townsend, and in conversations with Townsend and their team, they feel the same way that I do, is that if you put the application out and you don't get funded, for whatever reason that may be, when you go back the second time around and you have a more developed grant application, chances are they've already seen you once and said, this is our feedback, so it may align us to be more competitive in the second round. I don't think it's a waste of our staff resources. That's my personal opinion. And it's due August 5th, so we've done a lot of the work already. So the resolution is just a part of it.
Michael, did you want to say something? Come on up.
I was just going to add, like Audra was saying, I think what this allows us to do is to get valuable feedback from a grant application. One of the unique things about this funding opportunity is there's no match, and it includes land acquisition, which you don't see a lot in a lot of funding opportunities. So if we can put in an application first, get some valuable feedback, and be much more competitive on the second round, I think that's definitely worth it. I think the other part too is, while we're calling it the recreation complex, really what we've heard from the community first and foremost is a community center. There's some potential conversations that we can start having with the community to talk about what other amenities that they would like to see, and really start to develop a much more robust plan while we look at potential sites. And so I think as those conversations within the community happen and it becomes much more detailed by the time we're in the second round, depending on whatever those amenities look like, we'll have a much more clear picture of really what we want to apply for, and it'll make us a lot more competitive.
Thank you.
No other question? Oh, sorry.
Any other questions for me?
No.
Okay.
I'll just make a motion to approve item number 3.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Call for the vote.
I'll vote.
All ayes.
Number 7 is a public hearing, and this is for the property-related fees to Los Angeles County. As you remember, that back in June of 2017, we adopted rates for the next 5 years, but every year we have to adopt resolutions that get forwarded on to LA County, giving them permission to put those fees on our tax rolls.
Okay.
And so that's what's before you this evening.
Okay, then I will, do you want to speak first, or should you want me to open the public hearing?
I'm good.
I'll open the public hearing. Anybody from the audience want to speak on this issue? Hearing none. Close the public hearing.
So do we make a motion to direct the city clerk to request Los Angeles County to place the fees on the fiscal year 18-19 property tax roll?
Yes, and to adopt those resolutions.
And adopt the resolutions?
Okay.
Second.
Comments? Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Item number 8.
This is an item under the Housing Authority, and Bob Greenlaw will speak to you on this.
Okay, so we're here tonight on item 8 to approve the final construction plans that we've been working on for the 206 East Whitley property that the city owns, and supposed to be for low mod housing, and we've been previously in front of you to discuss remodeling the existing 4 units. There's actually 5 units on the property right now, and we won't be remodeling, that 5th unit that is scheduled for demolition at some point in the future, because we think that it would be too expensive, to not cost effective to remodel that one. So just a little background for the folks at home. So tonight, at the April 16, 2019 City Council acting as a housing authority meeting, staff presented 95% plans, and based on council's or the housing authority's input, the plan set for construction is presented tonight. And we present that to you also. One of the valuable things about having council approve that plan set is design immunity if we get any claims against it late in the future. So that's why we're always presenting plans to you for your approval. Plus, we're very interested in what you think about what you're spending money, the community is spending money on. But those are the 2 things that we do this for. So the bid documents will include bid alternates, and that's important because you may see kind of a robust set of plans here, but it'll allow the city to have the flexibility to maximize the budget on the critical improvements that you think are needed, and we can have more finite information for you once we get the bids in from the contractors. And then we can see what we want to include and what we don't. So what you'll see is, like we do, we must, by public contract code, have a base bid, something to be able to select a contractor, and then we have an array, kind of a menu of sorts, of different alternates that could be on there, so they're additives in this case. So say that there's some, as we go through the plans, there's some features on the frontage that the architect has added in, but maybe those things are beyond our budget, and so we wouldn't include those in this. Okay? So some of these alternates may require additional funding to be appropriated beyond what we have budgeted so far, even though that there's additional funds available in the bond funds that are that we've set aside. We can decide at that point once we get the bids in. Okay? So I think we'll just go quickly through a few pages here and see if anything piques your interest. And really, we're not trying to decide on things tonight, but just trying to show you what the plan set includes at this point. So you can see from the cover sheet here, there's some improvements that also the architects included. He put a little bit kind of fancy improvements on the frontage of the building with some wood and kind of, so it's just not a piece of stucco. Whether we include that or not, we'll see what the prices are. But otherwise, you know that there's 2 stairways that go up to the building now, and those are rotten, and as well as the front deck, and all of that's going to be removed, and you only have 1 stairway. And the deck that's to the left side of the building, that will also be removed, and there'll be concrete, new concrete, all be ADA accessible to the best of our ability into the frontage of the building, and a little bit of new landscaping into the front. So in the piece that the 4 units are on. So then we'll go over to page A2.5, and what this does is it gets us the plan view. Okay, so we're down in the basement. We got actually 3 stories here, and when you look at the face of the building, you only see 2 stories. But what this does, it just shows you that on the left side of the building there's actually what was kind of a legal unit way back when, and so it didn't have legal ceiling. So, and we're going to remove all of that, and it's going to be a workshop. So what it'll be is really the maintenance workshop for the whole complex. So whatever tools and equipment and supplies we need, it'll be right underneath the building, and so that'll all be cleaned up. And then to the right, there's a laundry room. That's an existing laundry room, and behind that is additional storage for the residents. So if they have bikes, kayaks, whatever, there's room under there that's underneath the house, and we'll just make sure that that's nice and sanitary and everything has its place. Okay? And then we go to page A2.5A. And what we have here is the first floor plan on the right and the second floor plan on the left, which, you know, they're just stacked units. And you can see some of the improvements that, you know, we'll get. We're going to remove all of the millwork, so all the kitchen cabinets, and be all the way down to the studs in the lower part of the wall of the kitchen, putting new plumbing. The electrical in there should be sufficient, but at least all the fixtures will be changed out. There'll be new windows, retrofit windows, so that we are attempting not to cut the stucco. There'll be new decks on the back. So you see that there's new, increased, larger decks on there and we can use that space both for what's on the ground right now behind the storage and that new workshop in there. But then now we can use that piece of real estate another couple of times, you know, with that large deck, with that view out to the harbor. So, and that allows additional space for those occupants to be able to be outside and in their own unit. So, really a good use of real estate for cheap. You know, I think we'll find that through the bids. Okay, and then so the bathroom, the same thing as the kitchen, we'll be demoing those. And the reason, there's some of that tile and some of the fixtures are in good shape, but they're not where it's going to be a long-term, low-maintenance improvement, you know. Right. But the plumbing in the wall is in not good shape, so that is the main reason for tearing it all the way down to the studs in those areas, so that we can get new plumbing. Okay, and then we'll go to page A3.0, and this is the exterior of the building. And you can see that we're going to be putting in, like I said, the new windows, new doors out to the back, the new stairway, the new deck in the front, yeah, and then, the new decks in the back, and new surfaces on the ground level. So essentially that's what we'll get. There's a whole lot of alternates that will be in there within the bid document. So that's what we have in front of us right now. We're want to bring back a set of bids that's within budget to you, but also want to bring you some alternates that if there's something that grabs your attention and you see that really is worthwhile and you have a final dollar amount that you know that's in your grasp, you may want to choose that. Okay? Any questions?
No? Great.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
I'd like to move to approve the final construction plans and authorize staff to develop and release requests for proposals.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Yeah, we have that. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
We have the hospital agenda.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
I'm just terribly ready. I'd like to call to order the July 16th meeting of the Avalon Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees meeting. Could we have the roll call, please?
Trustee Hayes.
Here.
Trustee Cassidy. Here. Trustee Marshall.
Here.
Chairman Olson.
Here. Any announcements? Sorry, any announcements?
No announcements,
No,
no
perfect.
written.
Nothing written? Perfect. Any presentations? Nope, not already. Consent calendar.
We have 2 items on the consent calendar this evening. The first one is the minutes from the June 18, 2019 Avalon Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees meeting. Number 2 is the CEO's June 2019 report and the CFO's narrative analysis for May of 2019.
Trustee comments? No. Public comments? Entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve items 1 and 2.
I'll second that.
Call for the question?
All ayes.
We're adjourned.
Nope, you skipped over a public, you're not adjourned yet, you skipped over public oral communication.
Sorry. Oral communication. Members of the public may address the Avalon Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees at this time. No action will be taken on non-agenda items at this meeting. Speakers should limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes. Once again, people flocking to the podium. Hearing none, now we'll be adjourned.
Excellent. And
We have 5 closed session items, public employee performance evaluation, city manager, and talking about 4 existing litigation cases which are noticed on the agenda with respect to Item number 4, Councilmember McGoon Cassidy will be recusing herself from that item insofar as it relates to discussion of the Island Company and the reason for his income from the Island Company.
Great, thank you.
I guess we're going to have enough time.
We're back from closed session. Legal counsel?
Yes, we have one reportable action on item number 5. The council unanimously rejected the claim.
Okay. Good night, Tony. Meeting adjourned.